A wealthy woman's call to police over a black father at a playground becomes a moment of poetic justice when the responding officer discovers the suspicious man is actually the town's mayor, a decorated veteran who's fought harder for respect than he ever did in combat. The playground gleamed under late morning sun, all primary colors and children's laughter. Rubber mulch crunched beneath expensive sneakers as Victoria Hastings clutched her phone, diamond rings catching the light. Her voice carried across the swings and slides, sharp with urgency. "Yes, I need police at Riverside Park immediately." 20 feet away, Marcus Webb pushed his daughter higher on the swing. Maya's braids flew behind her like ribbons, her giggles cutting through the tension Victoria was creating. He'd noticed the stares when they arrived. Nothing new. "Just another Tuesday. There's a man here," Victoria continued, turning away as if he might hear. "He's been watching the children for almost 20 minutes now." Marcus caught Maya on the backswing, steadying her. She was 6, all joy and trust. She didn't notice the other parents pulling their kids closer. Didn't see the way conversation stopped when he walked past the monkey bars. "I don't know him," Victoria said, her voice dropping to a stage whisper. "He doesn't live in this neighborhood." "I'm certain of that." The dispatcher's tinny voice asked something Victoria couldn't quite answer. Her eyes flickered toward Marcus. Royal blue polo shirt, khaki shorts, hands that had just been clapping for his daughter's request to go higher. She cleared her throat. "I just think someone should check, for safety." You understand? Marcus did understand. He'd understood his entire life. The knowing settled in his chest like old weight, familiar and heavy. Maya jumped from the swing, landing with a triumphant shout. She ran to him, arms wide, and he caught her, lifting her high. Over her shoulder he saw Victoria still on the phone, watching, describing. "Where are you watching from? Drop your country in the comments below. And if this story hits different, hit that subscribe button. You won't want to miss what happens next." Marcus Webb had been mayor for 18 months, but he'd been black his entire life. The first fact impressed people at city council meetings. The second fact made them nervous at playgrounds. His morning had started at 5:30, with policy briefs and constituent emails. By 7, he'd walked Maya to school, her hand small in his. By 9, he'd mediated a dispute between the Planning Commission and local businesses. By 10:15, he'd picked Maya up for her dentist appointment, which finished early. The playground had been her idea. "Daddy, can we please?" Those eyes, so much like her mother's, made saying no impossible. So here they were at Riverside Park, where the houses started at 7 figures and the assumptions came free with admission. Marcus knew this neighborhood well. He'd fought for its community center funding, approved its street repairs, attended its town halls. He'd shaken hands with half these parents at campaign events, but recognition worked differently depending on context. In a suit behind a podium, he was Mr. Mayor. In casual clothes at a playground, he was something else entirely. Maya ran to the slide, and he followed at a distance, parents called protective when they did it, hovering when he did. She climbed the ladder with fierce concentration, reached the top and waved. He waved back, phone in his other hand, checking the afternoon schedule. The park smelled like fresh mulch and sunscreen. Flowers bordered the fence line, petunias in ivory and lavender, planted by volunteers he'd personally thanked at last month's beautification ceremony. The irony wasn't lost on him. He'd approved the budget for this playground's renovation. A mother pulled her toddler away from the sandbox as he walked past. Not obviously. Just a subtle redirect, a gentle tug toward the swings. Marcus pretended not to notice. Maya, thankfully, was oblivious, lost in the joy of sliding and climbing and being 6 years old. His phone buzzed. City manager needed approval on something. Marcus typed a response, keeping one eye on Maya. This was the balance, father and mayor, present and working, relaxed but never quite at ease. Not in spaces like this. Not when being ordinary required extraordinary caution. Victoria Hastings hadn't planned on calling the police. She'd planned on a peaceful morning at the park with her twins, followed by lunch at the country club. But plans changed when circumstances demanded vigilance. She'd noticed him immediately. Black man alone, no visible children with him at first. He'd walked the perimeter of the playground, studying it the way people did when they were casing something. When the little girl appeared, his daughter supposedly, Victoria's concern only deepened. "Ethan, stay where I can see you," she called to her son, who was climbing too high on the jungle gym. Her daughter Emma sat nearby making a dandelion chain. Victoria positioned herself where she could watch both her children and the man. He was pushing the girl on the swings now. Too enthusiastic, too loud, drawing attention. Victoria noticed his phone kept coming out. Was he taking pictures? Of other children. The thought made her skin crawl. Another mother, Jennifer, approached with a knowing look. "Do you know him?" "Never seen him before," Victoria said, keeping her voice low. "He just showed up. Maybe we should say something. I'm handling it." Victoria had grown up being taught to trust her instincts. Right now, those instincts screamed wrong. Everything about this situation felt off. The way he kept scanning the playground. The way he seemed too comfortable in a neighborhood where he clearly didn't belong. His clothes were neat, she'd give him that. But there was something about him that didn't fit. She'd seen enough crime shows to know predators came in all disguises. When the little girl ran toward the sandbox, the man followed. Too close, too attentive. Victoria's hand found her phone before she'd consciously decided to act. The 911 dispatcher answered on the second ring. Victoria walked toward the parking lot, creating distance, speaking clearly. She gave the address, described the situation with words like suspicious and concerning behavior, and "I just want to be safe." "Can you describe him?" the dispatcher asked. Victoria glanced back. Black male, early 40s maybe. Royal blue shirt. With a young girl, but I'm not sure she's actually his. "Why do you say that?" "Just a feeling." "Can you send someone?" The dispatcher said a unit was en route. Victoria felt her shoulders relax. She'd done the right thing. Better safe than sorry. Better to overreact than to read tomorrow's headlines about something terrible that happened, because no one spoke up. Maya's voice carried across the playground. "Daddy, watch this." Victoria heard it. Chose not to. Marcus felt it before he saw it. The shift in atmosphere, subtle as temperature dropping. The mother on the phone had turned her back, but her posture screamed alarm. Other parents had formed a loose perimeter, protective and suspicious. He'd been here before. Different park, different city, same script. Maya landed her jump from the low platform, arms raised in victory. "Did you see, Daddy?" "I saw, baby." "That was amazing." He kept his voice steady, warm, normal. Kids absorb tension like sponges, and Maya didn't need to learn this lesson yet. Didn't need to understand that her father's presence could be interpreted as threat, but she was learning it anyway. Children always did. "Why is that lady staring at us?" Maya asked, lowering her voice the way she did when something confused her. Marcus knelt to her level, brushing mulch from her lavender shorts. "She's probably just worried about her own kids. Lots of parents are protective at playgrounds. Are you protective?" "The most protective." "That's my job." Maya seemed satisfied with that answer and ran toward the monkey bars. Marcus stood slowly, feeling every one of his 43 years. The weight wasn't physical. He still ran 5 miles every morning, still did the push-ups his drill sergeant had demanded 20 years ago. This weight was older, deeper, inherited. His mother had warned him about this. Even after the election victory, even after the newspaper headlines and the handshakes, she'd pulled him aside. "That title won't protect you everywhere, Marcus. Some people will only ever see what they've decided to see." She'd been right. She was always right. Marcus checked his watch, 11:17. Maya needed to eat lunch soon, and he had a 1 o'clock meeting with the police chief. The irony of that timing would be funny if it weren't so tired. He'd spent the last month implementing de-escalation training for the department, building trust between law enforcement and community. And now someone had called those same officers on him for the crime of being a father in the wrong neighborhood. Sirens, distant, but growing closer. Maya looked up from the monkey bars, eyes wide. "Daddy? Is someone hurt?" Marcus forced a smile that felt like breaking. "I don't know, sweetheart. Let's hope everyone's okay." 22 years ago, Marcus Webb had stood in different kind of playground, a dust-covered training ground in Fort Benning, Georgia. His drill instructor had made everything simple. Follow orders, protect your unit, never quit. The rules were clear, the hierarchy visible, the enemy identifiable. He'd deployed 3 times. Kandahar, Fallujah, back to Kandahar. Each tour taught him something about leadership, sacrifice, and the distance between who you are and who people think you are. His unit had been diverse, black, white, Latino, Asian, and under fire none of that mattered. Only competence mattered. Only trust. Captain Marcus Webb had earned both. Bronze Star for valor, Purple Heart for the shrapnel that still set off metal detectors, commendations that filled a folder his mother kept in a place of honor. He'd led missions where split-second decisions meant life or death, where his judgment had been trusted absolutely. Then he'd come home to a country that clutched purses when he walked past. His mother, Eleanor Webb, had raised him alone after his father died. She'd worked 2 jobs, hospital custodian and weekend catering, to keep him in good schools. Her advice had been consistent: be excellent, be undeniable, make them see you. So he had. College on military benefits, law school at night while working for the city, community organizing that built real coalitions. When he ran for mayor, people said he was too young, too idealistic, too much. He won anyway, carrying 18 of 22 districts. On election night, with Maya on his shoulders and supporters cheering, he'd felt it, that moment of arrival. Proof that excellence mattered, that being undeniable worked. But excellence had fine print. It worked in certain contexts, certain clothes, certain spaces. Put him in a suit behind a podium, and he was Mr. Mayor. Put him in khakis at a playground, and he was someone to call the police about. Maya was learning to read now, sounding out words with fierce determination. Soon she'd read the history books, learn about leaders who looked like her, understand that the path wasn't easy, but it was possible. Marcus wanted her to believe in possibility. He also needed her to survive long enough to reach it. The sirens were closer now. Marcus pulled out his wallet, made sure his ID was accessible. Just protocol, just preparation, just the extra steps you took when being excellent still wasn't quite enough. Thomas Hastings arrived at the park in his silver Mercedes, irritated by his wife's urgent text. Some situation with police, she'd said. Come now. He'd been in the middle of reviewing contracts. The city's new recreation center project, the one he was bidding on. He parked near the entrance and spotted Victoria immediately, phone still clutched like a weapon. She was talking to Jennifer, both women watching something near the swings. Thomas followed their gaze and felt his stomach drop. Marcus Webb, Mayor Marcus Webb, with his daughter. Victoria, Thomas said, approaching quickly. What's going on? I called the police, she said, voice tight with righteousness. That man has been acting strangely, and I won't apologize for protecting our children. That man is, I don't care who he is. If he has nothing to hide, he has nothing to worry about. Thomas looked at Marcus again, saw the resignation in his posture, the careful way he was positioning himself between Maya and the growing audience. Recognition flickered across Marcus's face when their eyes met. Not surprise, just a weary acknowledgement. They'd been in 3 meetings together. Thomas had pitched his recreation center proposal directly to Marcus, had shaken his hand, had called him Sir, without a second thought, because the context demanded it. City Hall, professional setting, the mayor in his element. Here, in casual clothes with his daughter, that same man had become invisible. Or worse, visible in all the wrong ways. Thomas felt the weight of choice pressing down. He could speak up right now, tell Victoria she'd made a terrible mistake, end this before it escalated further. His wife would be embarrassed. Their friends would talk, but it would be the right thing, or he could stay silent. Let the situation resolve itself. Officers would arrive, check identification, realize the mistake. No harm done, really. An understandable error. Victoria was just being cautious, protective of children. Who could fault that? The sirens grew louder, maybe 3 blocks away now. Maya had stopped playing and stood close to her father, sensing the shift in energy. She looked scared. Thomas opened his mouth, closed it, pulled out his phone and pretended to check emails. Marcus saw it happen, the recognition followed by the silence. Their eyes met again, and something passed between them. Not anger, worse than anger. Disappointment so complete it looked like acceptance. Daddy, Maya whispered loud enough to carry. Why is everyone looking at us? Marcus knelt down, his voice steady despite everything. Sometimes people make mistakes, baby. But we're going to be okay, I promise. The police cruiser turned into the parking lot, lights flashing. The patrol car rolled to a stop near the playground entrance, doors opening in synchronized efficiency. Officer David Chen stepped out first, followed by Officer Maria Rodriguez. Both wore the standard issue dark blue. Both had hands resting casually near their belts. Not threatening, just ready. Victoria hurried over before they'd taken 3 steps. "Officers, thank you for coming so quickly. I'm the one who called." Chen nodded, pulling out a small notepad. "Ma'am, you reported suspicious activity." "That man over there." Victoria gestured toward Marcus without looking directly at him. "He's been here alone with a young girl, and his behavior has been concerning. Taking photos on his phone, following children, just generally making people uncomfortable." Rodriguez scanned the playground, her expression neutral and professional. "Has he threatened anyone? Made any inappropriate contact?" "Well, no, but has he tried to leave with any children other than the girl he came with?" "Not exactly, but you have to understand, we don't know him. He doesn't belong to this neighborhood." Chen exchanged a glance with Rodriguez, and something unspoken passed between them. They'd heard this before in different words, same meaning. Chen's jaw tightened slightly. "We'll talk to him, ma'am. Please step back." The officers approached Marcus, who had positioned himself slightly in front of Maya. His hands were visible, relaxed at his sides, the posture of someone who'd been trained for exactly this situation. "Good morning." "Sir," Chen said, his tone respectful but firm. "We received a call about some concerns. Mind if we have a conversation?" "Of course, officer." Marcus's voice carried across the playground, clear and measured. "I'm here with my daughter. We've been here about 30 minutes. I understand, sir. This is just routine. Could I see some identification?" "Absolutely. My wallet is in my right pocket." "I'm going to reach for it slowly," Chen nodded. Rodriguez positioned herself at an angle, watching but not threatening. Maya pressed closer to her father's leg, and Marcus gently squeezed her shoulder. "It's okay, sweetheart. These officers are just doing their job." Victoria watched from 20 feet away, arms crossed, vindicated. Jennifer stood beside her, recording on her phone. Other parents had pulled out devices too, capturing everything. Marcus handed over his driver's license with steady hands. Chen took it, glanced down and froze. His eyes widened just slightly. He looked at the license, then at Marcus, then back at the license. Rodriguez noticed her partner's reaction and leaned closer to see. The name on the license read Marcus James Webb. The address was local, and stamped in small letters beneath the photo. Official use, elected official. Chen's face went through several expressions in quick succession: confusion, recognition, understanding, and something close to horror. "Sir," he said quietly. "Is this current?" Marcus met his eyes steadily. "It is? And you're—" "Yes." Victoria's voice cut through the moment. "Is there a problem, officers? Does he have a record?" Officer Chen's hand trembled slightly as he held the license. His mind raced through possibilities, checking and rechecking what he was seeing. Marcus Webb. Mayor Marcus Webb. The same man who'd stood at his swearing-in ceremony 6 months ago, who'd given the speech about community trust and shared responsibility. The same man who now stood in a playground, surrounded by suspicious stares, because someone had decided he looked dangerous. Rodriguez leaned in closer, reading the identification over Chen's shoulder. Her face paled. She touched Chen's elbow, a warning gesture that said, "We need to be very careful right now." "Sir," Chen started, his voice lower now, "I need to verify something. Can you tell me your current position?" Marcus could have made this easy. Could have announced it loudly. Let the revelation ripple through the crowd like vindication. But there was Maya to think about, pressed against his leg and trembling. There was the lesson this moment was teaching her, the one he'd hoped she'd never need to learn so young. "I'm the mayor of this city, officer. I have been for 18 months. The words dropped into silence. Chen stood taller, muscle memory from another life taking over. His right hand started to rise, not for his weapon, but in something else entirely. Recognition of a different kind. "Sir, Chen's voice cracked slightly. "I need to make a call." Victoria sensed something shifting, the confidence in her voice wavering. "What's going on?" "Officers, I demand to know what's happening." Rodriguez turned to her, expression carefully blank. "Ma'am, please step back and let us handle this. But I'm the one who called you. I have a right to—" "Ma'am, step back." The authority in Rodriguez's voice stopped Victoria mid-sentence. Thomas Hastings had moved closer, and now his face showed what Marcus had seen earlier. The recognition, the understanding, the calculation of how badly this was about to go for everyone involved. Chen was on his radio now, speaking in low tones to dispatch. Marcus heard fragments. At Riverside Park. Confirm identity. Mayor Webb. Maya tugged his hand. Daddy, I don't like this. Can we go home? Marcus knelt down, eye level with his daughter, aware that every phone camera was still recording. Soon, baby, very soon. I just need to finish talking with these officers, okay? But why did that lady call them? Did we do something wrong? The question hung in the air, witnessed by dozens. Marcus felt the full weight of it, not just what had happened, but what it meant, what it would continue to mean for Maya as she grew up. No title could protect her from this. No achievement would be enough. Chen turned back to them, face ashen. His hand was still trembling, but now it was rising toward his forehead, in a gesture Marcus recognized from his military days. Behind them, Victoria Hastings began to understand that she'd made a terrible mistake. Marcus remained kneeling, Maya's hand gripped tight in his. Around them, the playground had transformed into a stage, every parent and audience member bearing witness. The rubber mulch beneath his knees felt suddenly sharp, digging through fabric into skin. This was the moment he'd feared since Maya was born. Not the confrontation itself, he'd survived worse. But having her here, seeing it happen, feeling her small body shake with confusion and fear, this was the inheritance he'd hoped to avoid passing down. In the military, respect had been clear-cut. Rank meant something. Uniform meant something. You saluted the position, even if you disagreed with the person. But here in civilian spaces, respect was conditional, negotiable, subject to interpretation based on context, clothing and skin tone. He thought of his mother, Eleanor, who'd worked those double shifts so he could attend schools where he was often the only one who looked like him. She'd prepared him with talks that started too young, how to keep his hands visible, how to speak clearly, how to never give anyone an excuse. You have to be perfect, baby, she'd said, and even then it might not be enough. Even then Maya's voice pulled him back. Daddy, your phone is buzzing. He glanced at the screen still in his pocket. City manager, police chief, 3 council members. News traveled fast in small cities, especially when it involved the mayor being treated like a criminal at a public park. By tomorrow, this would be everywhere. The think pieces would write themselves. Marcus looked up at Officer Chen, saw the recognition warring with protocol, the desire to fix this battling against the reality that some things couldn't be fixed with apologies. Damage was damage, witnessed and recorded. Maya, Marcus said softly, remember what Grandma Eleanor always says, about staying strong even when things are hard. Maya nodded, eyes too old for 6. She says we come from people who survived everything. That's right. And we're going to be okay. But as the words left his mouth, Marcus wondered if okay was enough anymore. Officer David Chen's mind raced backward through 7 years and 8,000 miles. Kandahar province, summer of 2018, the air thick with dust and tension. He'd been Army then. Specialist rank, part of a supply convoy that had taken wrong intelligence into hostile territory. The ambush had come at dusk. Chen remembered the chaos. Vehicles disabled, ammunition running low, radio communications jammed. They'd been pinned down for 3 hours, waiting for extraction that couldn't reach them through enemy fire. Then Captain Marcus Webb had arrived with a reaction force, impossibly fast, tactically perfect. He'd assessed the situation in seconds, deployed his team with precision that came from genius or experience or both. Webb had pulled Chen and 4 others from a burning Humvee, provided covering fire while they repositioned, coordinated air support that finally broke the enemy's hold. Chen had spent 2 days in medical afterward, smoke inhalation and minor burns. Webb had visited, checked on every soldier personally, remembered everyone's name. That was when Chen had learned that excellence came in different forms. Webb hadn't just saved lives through tactics. He'd honored them through presence. Sir, Chen said now, his voice carrying the weight of that memory, were you stationed in Afghanistan? Kandahar region? Marcus's expression shifted, surprise breaking through resignation. I was. 3rd deployment, 2018 to 2019. Did you command the reaction force out of Forward Operating Base Lindsay? I did. Chen's hand completed its journey to his forehead, a crisp, precise military salute that cut through the playground's tension like a blade. Captain Webb, sir, you saved my life in August 2018. Convoy ambush 7 clicks east of the base. The playground noise died completely. Victoria Hastings went rigid. Thomas closed his eyes. Jennifer's phone camera kept recording, but her hands had started shaking. Rodriguez was already pulling up information on her phone. Marcus's official city profile, his military record, the mayoral portrait that hung in City Hall. She showed her screen to Chen, confirming what they both now knew with certainty. Mayor Marcus Webb, Rodriguez read quietly. Elected November 2023. United States Army veteran, Bronze Star, Purple Heart, member of City Council 2020 to 2023, former prosecutor. Graduate of Officer Rodriguez, Marcus interrupted gently. My daughter doesn't need the full resume right now. Rodriguez looked at Maya, who was staring at her father with wide eyes, trying to understand why the police officer was saluting like in Daddy's old photos. Of course, sir. My apologies. Chen lowered his salute slowly, his face a mix of emotions, gratitude, embarrassment, anger at the situation. Sir, I need to apologize on behalf of Officer Chen. Marcus's voice was firm but not unkind. You responded to a call. You did your job professionally. What happens next is what matters. Victoria had gone pale, the reality of her mistake settling over her like ash. She looked at Thomas, who refused to meet her eyes. Around them, parents were whispering, checking their phones, realizing who they'd been watching get interrogated. Chen turned to his radio. Dispatch, this is Unit 12. We're at Riverside Park with Mayor Webb. Cancel that suspicious person call. Repeat, cancel. This was a... He paused, choosing words carefully. A misidentification. No further action needed. The dispatcher's response crackled through. Copy that, Unit 12. Confirming your Code 4 with the mayor? Affirmative. We're Code 4. Marcus stood slowly, helping Maya to her feet. His knees ached from kneeling on mulch, but it was nothing compared to the ache in his chest. Chen's recognition had changed the immediate situation, but it hadn't changed what had happened. Couldn't erase what Maya had witnessed. Officers, Marcus said quietly, I appreciate your professionalism, but I think my daughter and I should probably head home now. Wait. Chen's voice carried authority that stopped Marcus mid-turn. With respect, sir, I don't think you should leave yet. Marcus looked at him, questioning. Maya pressed closer to his leg. Chen turned to face the gathered parents, his posture shifting into something formal. Rodriguez stepped beside him, united front. The playground had become an impromptu courtroom, and everyone present was about to receive a lesson. My name is Officer David Chen, he began, voice clear and steady. 18 months ago, I joined this police department because Mayor Webb convinced me that community policing could actually mean something, that we could build trust instead of fear. Victoria tried to slip toward the parking lot. Chen's next words stopped her. The woman who called us today, Mrs. Hastings, I believe, reported a suspicious black male acting inappropriately around children. She said he was taking photos, following kids, making people uncomfortable. Chen paused, letting the words sink in. What she actually saw was Mayor Marcus Webb, decorated combat veteran and elected leader of this city, spending his morning with his 6-year-old daughter. Jennifer's phone camera pivoted toward Victoria, who had frozen near the bench. Thomas stood apart from her now, distant, speaking volumes. Rodriguez took over, her voice sharp. Let me be very clear about what happened here. A father brought his child to a public park. He pushed her on swings. He watched her play. He checked his phone, probably work emails, knowing the mayor's schedule, and someone decided that was suspicious behavior worthy of police intervention. I was just being careful, Victoria said, voice small. With everything you hear on the news, you were being prejudiced, Rodriguez cut her off. There's a difference between caution and discrimination. You know this man's face. He's been in the newspaper, on local television, at community events you've probably attended. But here in casual clothes with his daughter, you couldn't see past your assumptions. Marcus wanted to tell them to stop, to let it go, to end this before it became bigger than it already was. But Chen met his eyes, and something passed between them, a question asking for permission. Marcus gave a slight nod. Chen's voice gentled but lost none of its impact. Captain Webb, Mayor Webb, led the mission that saved my life overseas. When I came home with trauma and uncertainty about my future, he personally helped me through the application process for this department. He reformed our use of force policies, implemented de-escalation training, Fought for community oversight even when it was politically risky, the officer's voice caught. And today he had to explain to his daughter why police were called on them for being black in a nice neighborhood. Silence stretched across the playground. A child's cry in the distance sounded obscenely normal. Maya tugged Marcus's hand and he squeezed back, 3 times their code for I love you. Thomas Hastings finally found his voice. For Victoria, we need to go now. I didn't know, Victoria said, tears starting. How was I supposed to know? Marcus spoke then quietly but clearly. You could have asked. Before calling the police, before assuming the worst, you could have simply walked over and said hello. Asked if everything was okay. Introduced yourself like a neighbor. Victoria flinched as if struck. Instead, Marcus continued, you saw a black man with a child, and your first instinct was danger. Your first action was 911. And my daughter... His voice tightened. My daughter just learned that her father's presence can be treated as a threat, regardless of who he is or what he's accomplished. Maya looked up at him, understanding more than he wished she did. That's the lesson we taught her today. All of us. Marcus looked around at the assembled parents, many of whom had pulled their own children closer when he'd arrived. We taught her that excellence isn't enough. Achievement isn't enough. Being mayor isn't enough. Because some people will always see the color first and the character never. Rodriguez stepped forward. Mrs. Hastings, you need to understand something. If Mayor Webb wanted to, he could file a formal complaint. This incident could have repercussions for you, especially given your husband's business contracts with the city. Thomas went rigid. The recreation center bid. The leverage suddenly visible. But that's not who he is, Rodriguez continued. Which is why he's standing here calmly, teaching his daughter Grace under pressure, instead of demanding consequences. She paused. You should be grateful. And you should be ashamed. Victoria was crying openly now, mascara tracking down her cheeks. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. Marcus looked at her, really looked, and saw not malice but something perhaps worse, thoughtlessness, the casual cruelty of unexamined assumptions. He could accept the apology, could let her off the hook, could make this easier for everyone, or he could let the discomfort sit. Let it teach. Let it change, Mrs. Hastings, he said finally. I accept that you're sorry, but sorry doesn't erase what happened. It doesn't undo what Maya experienced. He glanced at Chen. Officers, thank you for your professionalism today, for recognizing the situation and handling it with integrity. Chen nodded, saluting once more. Rodriguez followed suit. Marcus picked up Maya, settling her on his hip despite her growing weight. Come on, baby. Let's go home. The walk to the parking lot felt longer than it was. Parents parted like water, creating a path lined with phones still recording and faces showing everything from shame to support. Marcus kept his eyes forward, focused on getting Maya to safety, to space where she could process without audience. Behind them, Chen was talking to the remaining crowd, his voice carrying snippets. First need to examine our assumptions. The mayor has shown remarkable restraint. Hope this becomes a teaching. Moment, Marcus reached his car, a modest sedan that had surprised people when he was elected, as if mayors were supposed to drive luxury vehicles. He buckled Maya into her booster seat, her small hands helping with the straps she'd learned to do herself. Independent, capable, resilient. Like her grandmother Eleanor. Daddy. Maya's voice was small. Are you in trouble? Marcus knelt beside the open door, eye level with his daughter. No, sweetheart, I'm not in trouble. Some people just made a mistake today. Because of your skin. The question landed like a blow. Marcus took a breath, searching for words that were honest but not crushing. Sometimes people make assumptions based on how someone looks, instead of who they are. It's not right, but it happens. That's not fair. No, Marcus agreed. That's not fair at all. Maya was quiet for a moment, processing with the serious concentration she brought to difficult homework. Then, but Officer Chen knew you were a hero. He said you saved his life. I did my job, baby. Same as he did his today. And you're the mayor. You're supposed to be in charge. Marcus smiled despite everything. Being in charge doesn't mean everyone treats you fairly. It means you have to keep doing the right thing even when it's hard. He touched her cheek gently. You know what Grandma Eleanor would say about today? What? She'd say we held our heads high. We stayed calm. We showed grace, and that matters more than someone else's mistake. He paused. But she'd also say it's okay to feel hurt or angry about what happened. Maya nodded slowly, then surprised him by wrapping her arms around his neck in a fierce hug. Marcus held her, breathing in the strawberry scent of her shampoo, feeling the steady beat of her heart against his chest. When they pulled apart, Maya's expression had shifted to something determined. "So I'm going to tell Grandma that you were brave today. Thank you, baby. That means everything." Marcus closed her door and walked around to the driver's side. Through the windshield he could see the playground in the distance, the swing still moving in the breeze, the slide gleaming in sunlight, everything peaceful now. As if nothing had happened. But something had happened. Something that would ripple outward through social media posts and news articles and dinner table conversations. Something that would force uncomfortable questions and maybe necessary growth. His phone showed 27 missed calls. Marcus started the car, choosing to ignore them for now. This moment belonged to Maya, to processing, to the drive home where they'd talk more or stay quiet or whatever she needed. As they pulled out of the parking lot, Marcus glanced in the rearview mirror. Officer Chen stood at attention near his patrol car, still holding his salute, even though Marcus was too far away to formally acknowledge it. The gesture said everything words couldn't: respect, regret, recognition. That heroism wore many faces and fought many battles, some in war zones and some in playgrounds on ordinary Tuesday. Mornings, Marcus touched 2 fingers to his own forehead in return, a small acknowledgement between soldiers who understood that some fights never really ended. Then he drove toward home, toward Eleanor's wisdom and Maya's resilience and the work that would continue tomorrow, because being twice as good meant never stopping. Even when you were already enough. That evening, Marcus stood on his back porch watching Maya chase fireflies in the yard. Eleanor sat beside him in the wicker chair she'd claimed years ago, her hand resting on his arm with the weight of understanding. "She'll be okay," Eleanor said quietly. "Strong bones run in this family. I wanted better for her, Mama. Thought maybe my generation had broken enough barriers that hers wouldn't have to fight the same battles." Eleanor squeezed his arm. "Every generation breaks what it can and passes the tools to the next. You've given Maya something powerful today, even if it hurt to give it. What's that? You showed her how to stand in your truth, even when others refuse to see it. How to maintain dignity when dignity isn't given. That's armor, Marcus. The kind that lasts." Marcus watched his daughter's silhouette against the darkening sky, her laughter untouched by the day's weight. Children were resilient in ways adults forgot to be. Tomorrow she'd ask questions. Next week she'd reference it in context he couldn't predict. But tonight she was chasing light. "Officer Chen asked to meet tomorrow," Marcus said. "Wants to discuss department training updates. Said today proved we still have work to do. That's something. Recognition from the inside. Is it enough?" Eleanor stood, facing him with the expression she'd worn when he'd announced his deployment, his law school plans, his mayoral campaign. Pride mixed with protective fear. "Nothing's ever enough, baby. But it's something. And something is how we build everything." Inside, Marcus's phone continued buzzing with interview requests, support messages, a few hateful comments that he'd delete without reading. The story was spreading, taking on life beyond the playground, beyond Victoria Hastings' tears and Thomas's silence and the recordings that would live forever online. But here, in his backyard with his mother and daughter, Marcus felt something shift. Not hope exactly. Hope was too fragile for what they'd survived. This was sturdier, determination. The knowledge that tomorrow would bring more battles, more moments requiring twice the grace for half the benefit, more explanations to Maya about things she shouldn't have to understand so young, and the certainty that they'd face it anyway. Because that's what survival looked like in a world still learning to see past its own assumptions. Maya ran to him, breathless, holding a captured firefly gently between her cupped palms. "Look, Daddy, I caught one without hurting it." Marcus knelt down, admiring the soft glow pulsing against her brown skin. "That's the trick, baby. Holding on without causing harm, knowing when to let go so the light can keep shining." Maya opened her hands, and the firefly lifted into the evening air, joining the dance of its companions. She watched it disappear into the darkness, her face reflecting wonder that the day's pain hadn't diminished. "Good night, little light," she whispered. Marcus stood, taking her hand. Eleanor held the door open, warm light spilling from inside, Home haven, the place where they didn't have to be twice as good, where they could simply be. Tomorrow would come with its challenges and its small victories. Tonight belonged to fireflies and family, and the quiet strength of knowing who you were regardless of who else could see it. Some lights kept shining, even in darkness. That was the lesson Victoria Hastings had interrupted, but couldn't extinguish. That was the truth Officer Chen's salute had honored. Excellence wasn't about changing others' minds. It was about staying true when their minds remained unchanged. About teaching the next generation to shine anyway, despite everything, because of everything. Marcus closed the door against the evening chill, Maya's laughter already filling the house with sound. Outside, fireflies continued their dance, carrying light into darkness the way his family always had, the way they always would.